Welcome to PBCJ's A Different Life, your window into the world of persons with disabilities. I'm your host, Dr. Christine Hendricks. In this episode, we will continue our discussion on the support provided for persons with disabilities and the organizations committed to providing that support. When we return, we'll be speaking with our first guest, Assistant Chief Education Officer of the Special Education Unit within the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, Dr. Sharon Anderson Morgan. Stick with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back to A Different Life. I'm Dr. Christine Hendricks, and today we will be attempting to wrap up our discussion on the topic of support systems for persons with disabilities, their colleagues and their loved ones. With me in studio today is Dr. Sharon Anderson Morgan, Assistant Chief Education Officer in the Special Education Unit in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. Welcome, Dr. Anderson Morgan. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now I'd like us to begin by outlining to our audience, what do we mean by the term special needs?
All right, so when we speak of special needs, we're talking about demonstrated learning challenges that require supports outside of what would be provided for your typical learner. So it includes students with disabilities, but it also includes learners who perform above the norm, your students who are gifted and talented. Okay,
so we do have somewhere for persons with disabilities and persons who are excelling in their area. Awesome. Tell us a bit more about the characteristics of some of these conditions of persons with disabilities that would fall within your unit.
All right, so you have a wide range of needs. So I mentioned earlier, you have students who are gifted and talented, and these are not just bright students. These are students who have demonstrated extremely high levels of achievement in academic areas or other areas, leadership, music, creativity, etc. Then you have cognitive challenges. So you have your intellectual disabilities, and these students would function way below the norm. They'd have difficulties with life skills, everyday life skills, as well as they would have below average intelligence. So you'd find them performing generally below average. You have learning disabilities. These are students who have average or above average intelligence, but have difficulties in the way they process information. Then you have a wide range of emotional behavioral disorders, and these students are going to be the students who demonstrate challenging behaviors in the classroom, and they're not just bad, they are demonstrating challenging behaviors probably because of neurological challenges, chemical imbalances in the brain, etc. Then of course we have our sensory impairments. So we have students who are deaf and hard of hearing, or students who are blind and visually impaired. And then you have the range of physical challenges and also health impairments, right? And somewhere in that mix, some persons would put autism in that behavior group, or some persons would categorize it separately.
Okay. Quite interesting. Among all of these that you have stated, which is the most common in Jamaica?
All right, so generally you have high incidence and low incidence disabilities. So disabilities like learning disabilities and intellectual disabilities, particularly mild intellectual disabilities, would be the most prevalent.
Okay, right. Interesting.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about the Ministry of Education, the Special Education Unit in particular. What is their objective? What is your objective? And how do you go about accomplishing this objective?
All right. So the main objective is to provide access and equitable quality education for students with special education needs. And I insert education because special needs could mean different things outside of education. So that's our main goal. We want education to be accessible. We want it to be equitable. So we do that by providing a range of services, which includes training and capacity building. That's a big part of what we do. So we train teachers. We provide capacity building and sensitization for various stakeholders, including parents, members of the public. We also help provide supports for students who are in the school. So for example, now everybody's looking forward to exams. There are exam accommodations that are provided. Supports also include Braille and large print for students who are blind. So we have a Braille and large print section in the unit. We monitor schools. So monitoring and supervision is a very big part of what we do, ensuring that standards are maintained in this various special education programs. We also do assessment and other forms of support. So in each regional office, so apart from our special education unit that's in Kingston at Canewood Center, we have within the various educational regions, in the 7 educational regions, our regional special needs coordinators and our student support teams. They provide support to the mainstream. So you know, you have students with special needs who are in a regular primary school or a regular high school, and they would provide support for teachers, for the student themselves, for their parents, for teachers, to ensure that they are being accommodated within the general education system. So that in a nutshell is what we do.
Yes, a wide range of supports are provided within the Ministry of Education, particularly based on what the special education unit would provide the guidance on. How important is it that students are provided with this support? These supports?
It's critical. I'd say it's not just important, it's critical. Without this support, we can go back historically when children with special needs were pretty much hidden away, right? But now we're seeing where with support, they can be successful and achieve their goals. Without support, it is going to be difficult and nearly impossible for some students, depending on the range of needs. And even for a gifted learner, many gifted students become underachievers because first of all, no one identified their giftedness, and they were not provided with the support that they need. Our students with intellectual disabilities need to be taught at a slower pace. They need specialized strategies. So this support is critical. Some of them even need someone to be with them in the classroom, so they get one-on-one support. So that's also something that we support, you know, what we call shadows and caregivers.
Okay, awesome.
Yes.
How can persons with disabilities, parents, caregivers, friends and loved ones, how can they access these services through the Ministry of Education, Special Education Unit? All
right, so first of all, they can call us, right? They can call us, and our number is 876-967-2312. That's the Special Education Unit. They can send us an email at specialedu@moey.gov.jm. So that's specialedu@moey.gov.jm.
Awesome. So, so having called your unit and all of that, and if I am living in Trelawney up in the hills or so on, how can I access these educational institutions? Are they everywhere across the island? How can I get? Where are they?
So we have the regional special needs coordinators who, if you call our office in Kingston, we'll put you on to the various coordinators in the regional offices, and they would assess your need and determine where is the most ideal place for you in terms of your schooling. So while there are not special education schools everywhere, at least every parish has a school or some schools, or they have units, and units are special ed programs attached to general education schools. So for the primary level, we have a number of units all over the country and various intervention programs. And if you're not close to one of those, then we would assign you to a school in the mainstream and then help your school to accommodate you.
Okay, so those principals or head teachers who might be hesitant to accommodate persons with disabilities within their programs, they need to know too that support is provided through the special education
need to know
unit.
And there's also training. We actually have a training course for principals that's called the Inclusive School Leadership Training Program. That's done in collaboration with the National College of Educational Leadership.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesomeness. So are there any success stories that you'd like to share with us? Maybe just one in the time that we have.
Right, so there will be many, but one particular student comes to mind. Well, two, I'll share two quickly. One is a student with autism who was placed at a particular high school but was not thriving there, and so her mother reached out to us and we placed her in another school where there were more supports, and today she is a student at Edna Manley College of Visual and Performing Arts. There's another student who has some severe physical challenges. She's a wheelchair user, she's unable to write, and so through our unit she was able to get a caregiver who helped her with her writing, and last year she did her CSEC exams and she was successful in 6 subjects. Yay. So that's a good feeling.
Yes, and I feel great too just hearing that. So parents, please do not keep your children at home. There is support provided within the education system for them. Thank you so very much for sharing with us, Dr. Anderson Morgan. It has been such a pleasure.
You're most welcome. It was my pleasure also.
Yes. We must take a short break. When we return, we'll be speaking with the director of the Early Stimulation Program, Mrs. Antonika Gunter-Gale. Back in a moment. Welcome back to A Different Life. I'm your host, Dr. Christine Hendricks, and joining me now is Mrs. Antonika Gunter-Gale, Director of the Early Stimulation Program. Welcome, Mrs. Gunter-Gale.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Now, we have been looking at some of the ways in which support can be provided for persons with disabilities, as well as those who love, live, and work with them. And in this segment of our program, we'd like to speak particularly to the importance of the Early Stimulation Program. So tell us how crucial it is for children with disabilities, and in fact persons with disabilities, to be provided with access to early stimulation.
Well, early stimulation is important for all children, more so for the child with developmental disabilities.
Right.
You know, this is how we assist this child to thrive and to develop and to be the best that he or she can be. It is through stimulation.
Right. So how does the Early Stimulation Program seek to accomplish, you know, this early intervention program and the stimulation, and how does it go about doing this?
Well, the Early Stimulation Program is a program of the Ministry of Labor and Social Security that provides early intervention to young children with varying types of developmental disabilities. And so a child is referred to the Early Stimulation Program, the child is assessed, and we arrive at a working diagnosis, and the child is given intervention through a child development officer who carry out this intervention, whether at school with the child, through pull-out sessions, or at home with parents, family members, siblings who use intervention from around the house to carry out activities with this child.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more about those kinds of intervention.
Intervention at the Early Stim, we have physiotherapy for children with physical disabilities. Then we have the child development officers who look at the 5 developmental domains: the cognitive, the social emotional, the fine and gross motor, the speech, you know, perceptive and receptive speech, to assist with the development of the child.
Okay, so they would use various items.
Various items. What we do is to encourage our families at home, you don't have to go to the most expensive toy stores to purchase, to work with the children. The Milo can, the empty orange juice box, just about anything that can be used, for a toy for a child. So we encourage them to use things from around the child's own environment, to create teaching, learning materials for children with special needs.
Awesome. So is the early stimulation right across Jamaica? Where can we find you?
We are working at that just now, but we are operating from at least 5 institutions just now. We have in Kingston, Hanover Street, that's at 95 Hanover Street, the Assessment Center. And then we have at 1A Austin Close in Kingston as well, our child development centers that caters on a daily basis to children with various types of developmental disabilities. Over in Portland, we also have the Portland Early Stimulation of Excellence that caters to children in Portland and the environs, St. Mary and St. Thomas and so forth. And then over in St. James, we operate out of Catherine Hall in St. James, where we see children in that vicinity as well.
Okay.
I should also mention our latest initiative, our mobile unit that have been going out to the parishes, carrying out intervention.
Okay, so you have so many things that have been going on in relation to intervention, and I'm so happy that we're going into the rural areas to ensure that those children get, the early intervention that they need, so that they can become all that they were designed to become. Tell me, what have you found to be the greatest needs of the children that you serve? Well,
presently we are working, as best as we can in terms of stimulation and the intervention, but there are areas, say for example, specialist areas, the need for speech therapists, that is a challenge here in Jamaica. We have very few speech therapists, and that is one of the areas, the developmental area, the area of need that we really need to look at. So even though we try with our curriculum to sort of enclose the language component, we still would need a specialist in that area.
Okay, so how long have you been doing what you do?
Well, I am in this for the past 32 years.
Amazing. So, I mean, over all these years, you must have encountered some persons and you must have seen many successes. Can you tell us one of these?
For me, I've seen so many success. I can tell you, for example, a child who is referred to the early stimulation program that was not able, upon referral, to open the palm, to use the fingers. After the therapy and the intervention, to see that child being able to gradually open the fingers, to put a biscuit or a cheese sticks to the mouth, it means a lot.
Yes.
We have seen children who came to us, other specialists have said that this child will never ever be able to, whether to walk, to talk, will not even live, and I've seen these children do so well and receive their GSAT for some of the prominent high schools here in the country.
Yes, yes. So, I mean, this is so amazing. And it just goes to show that with the right support and intervention, children with disabilities can achieve their goals.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for sharing with us, Mrs. Gunter-Gale. And I'd like to appeal to our parents to ensure that the early intervention is there for your child. Early stimulation. Ensure you use up the things around the house. As Mrs. Gunter-Gale says, the orange juice box, anything that is safe to ensure the child gets that stimulation that he or she needs. When we return, we'll be joined by a special guest who has benefited directly from this and other support systems. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Welcome back.
The Abilities Foundation was established in October 1992. Its existence is a collaborative effort of the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, Hard Trust NTA, and a number of agencies of and for persons with disabilities.
Here at the Abilities Foundation, we train students in data operation, otherwise called computer skills, where they are taught to navigate Microsoft Office as it pertains to Word, Excel, database and stuff like that. They also do a little bit of internet searching, so you teach them the right way to search for information, how to put a research together, all of that. Then you have furniture making, then you have housekeeping, where they look at room attendants, then you have design and decor, where they look at soft furnishing, so they will do cushions and stuff like that. They used to use things to turn over their hands, even old jeans, they use it and make bags and stuff like that. Then you have cosmetology, where they look at nails and makeup.
The Abilities Foundation is the leading organization for the disabled, offering learning opportunities that will produce graduates who are able to access further education and training and become confident and competent individuals at the workplace and in society at large.
Our age range starts from 17 and up. Once a person has a disability and they're registered with the Council for Persons with Disabilities and they're from 17 and over, they come here and they can be trained. What we do, we have what is called an intake examination. Currently, we're looking at doing everything online, but previously, students used to come in any day between the month of May and they sit an intake exam. What that helps us to do is to know the level of the student, so you know what the student is able to do and how best to fit them. If we are not able to cater to that person for some reason, we also refer them to the other best place for them. It all depends, because again, persons are at different levels. We have persons who are intellectually challenged. You also have physically impaired. You have persons who are deaf, persons who are blind, all of that. So everybody will not learn at the same pace. And it depends on the level of schooling they had before coming here as well. So it depends on what they're exposed to. That is why we do the intake exam to see how best to cater for a person. For example, in my data class, everyone is aimed at sitting the art exams. However, the way I reach this trainee might not be the same way I reach the other trainees. So I have to tailor the lesson to fit that particular trainee so that they can understand the same thing and at the end do the same exam.
The foundation has as its main objective to increase the employability of persons with disabilities.
It is so essential, because the truth is, just like a regular person, we all have our own issues. And our disability helps to make it even more complicated. Because, for example, you're already faced with a challenge where you need some medication, whatever it may be, and then to be fitted in the workplace, you have to be tailored to in such a way where you gain the same skills so you can go out there and execute. So if organizations like ours don't exist, then where would that person go? Because there's nobody lobbying for them. And when I say institution like ours, we also have to liaise with the council and other disabled organizations, because we can't fit all the needs. But we have to work together as a team to ensure that we cater for everyone's need. That is one of the particular reasons why persons who attend here needs to be registered with the Council for Persons with Disabilities, because we deal with the skill training, however, but there are certain needs that are needed for the person's welfare that the council can somewhat render assistance or refer them to that place, because some persons may need therapy, it all depends. I am a past student of the Abilities Foundation. I came here in '99 and graduated July 2001. Little before I graduated, just like anybody else hoping to gain a job, I started sending out applications, and Abilities Foundation was one such place that I sent my application to. Luckily for me, they were seeking a clerical assistant at the time, so I tapped into that opportunity. Since then, I've been doing courses, going to school and doing all of that to make sure I stay marketable, because you have to be marketable to be competitive. So on that end, that is also what I try to pass on to my students. We just need a start, and from the start, you make up your mind what is it you want to go at. For me, as a person with a disability coming here, before I came here, I was very sheltered. I wasn't even exposed to some extent, because here was the first institution for persons with disabilities that had a mixture. Because I was associated with Mona Rehab that caters to persons with physical disabilities. So some in chairs, some on crutches, and we moved around all along. However, when I came here, I saw blind students, deaf, so it was a mixture, and it allowed you to appreciate persons with other disabilities. And I moreover appreciated my group, because I remember in my group, there were 2 blind students coming from School for the Blind down the road on Maninzi Road, and they took it as their point of duty to teach me the surrounding. They were the ones who took my wheelchair and pushed me, showed me where Manor Park was, where Midway Mall was. We took it as fun, as narrow as that road was, we took it as fun to go down there to explore the place. So they know the surrounding inside out, and they weren't afraid to show it to everybody. So if you wanted to find places around here, just ask them. They knew where everywhere was. And amazing for me, if they told you that this particular shop was right here, when you look, it's very much right there. And they could tell you different parishes and where you found what. So it allowed you to appreciate persons for what they are and what is it they have to offer. So this institution had really opened my eyes, and I've been exploring, because each and every day I learn something new.
This has been the PBCJ's A Different Life. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.